Good morning. Today is Sunday, the 29th of October, and I decided to get out my old Betty Crocker cookbook that I got when I first went away to college, and I decided to make some banana bread. It'll help warm up the house, use up some bananas. I just put it in the oven and I've got the timer set, so it's going to cook. I thought I would share with you the progress on the paper whites. I planted 6 bulbs there and they're starting to green up a little bit. This is where I keep them. It's not in the sun, but it's not in the dark either. So it's just a light area that I keep it in. If you put it in too sunny a spot, sometimes the bulbs will sprout so quickly they'll push themselves out of the pot. And Miss Mimi is raring to go. In any event, some has happened since last week. It turns out the banana trees are still here. The polar vortex dipped a little bit, but we never really got the cold blast. It got down to about 39 was the coldest it ever hit here. So far we haven't had a frost, so all my tropical things are still doing well. I did change this up, and I put in my cyclamen for the winter. Now you can really see the pitcher plant, how much it has grown. If you look at some of the earlier videos, when I first got this as a small plant this spring, it had little teeny tiny pitchers. In fact, this was the biggest pitcher that it came with. And you can see it's small compared to the end of the season. Those I am going to protect this from winter cold. In fact, I may find a spot in my front porch for it. But I always put cyclamen here. They do really well. You do have to protect them from hard frosts, being that I live in a zone 8B. It doesn't get really cold here, and although this is the northern exposure of my house, I just have single pane glass in this distressed window frame that you see. And so the heat escapes from the house, and it's usually enough to keep the cyclamen fine, except if it's a hard freeze, I'll bring them in. The garden is sort of slowing down. I did use my new toy. I can actually cut the top of that hedge with my extendable hedge trimmer on a stick. I can do it from the deck, so I don't need to get ladders from this side. However, you do need ladders from the other side. To be truthful, I was a little disappointed because I was kind of expecting the pole to be extendable, and it extends by the fact that you put in pieces. So it's basically 3 pieces. It can go to 3 different lengths, but you have to like snap them in and take them out. They don't periscope into one another, which is no big deal. I did trim back these chrysanthemums, and you can see there's a second batch of buds coming. Same on this side. Second batch of buds coming there. And that'll stay green till you get sick of looking at it, really, as long as you water it. Right now we're still in a drought, so you do have to keep it watered. The ligularia is sending up its blossoms. You can see they're starting to come up. I've got 3 of them. Oh, there's the other one. They're going to get about 3 feet tall, and they have yellow daisy-like flowers. Here the citrus is still turning orange, kumquat. These kumquats are almost edible. Again, I usually make cranberry kumquat relish. You can see the satsumas are starting to orange up, which is good. Another couple of months we'll be eating plenty of satsumas. I do want to trim this off of the statue, but I'm waiting until I get the fruit off of it, because if you trim it, it might shock it and cause it to drop its fruit. So The statue is kind of holding up that branch, which is fine for now. My knockout roses are coming back. I cut them back quite severely. Actually, this one's doing a little worse than over here. Oh, there's Miss Mimi snooping around. They do have a nice fragrance. Right now you really can't smell them in my backyard because I told you I was baking banana bread. Hold that thought because I'll show you shortly what I'm talking about. The sky pencil hollies are doing well. Well, they didn't die. They're not going to do that much. These chrysanthemums need a little trim up already. That one's good. For some reason, this one stays drier. I don't know why. Starting to get some flowers on my Fatsias. The bees really love the flowers. Oh, speaking of bees, the sun's not on them right now, but the bees really love the flowers on my loquats. The loquats are starting to open, and they have a really strong, well, they have a scent. It's a strong scent when you have a large tree and a lot of flowers. They kind of look like strawberry blossoms in a way. And I'd say the smell is, I want to say it's just kind of like honey sweet. It doesn't have much of a citrusy. Usually you hear me talk about a citrus scent. This one doesn't have it. It's just a sweet honey-like smell, if that makes sense. Honey doesn't really have a pronounced odor. Here's what I was saying. It's smelling over here in the backyard. I made my banana bread and tossed the peels around my palm tree. I get every little bit of potassium out of my banana. So I made banana bread with 4 bananas and then threw all the skins around the tree, the palm tree. Over here, not much has changed. This Fatsia really bloomed last year. I have pictures of it, but I wasn't videoing yet. Yeah, it's going to have some more blossoms, but it was just loaded with blossoms on both sides here. It isn't going to happen this year, but we'll enjoy what happens, however it looks. And the other thing I wanted to show you this week is in the front yard. Here's a view from this side of the Satsuma tree. I have 3 Satsuma trees. This one is the one that's doing a heavy bearing this year. Usually they do heavy one year and not so heavy the next, or none at all. Here's the toad lilies are still in bloom. They're going to keep blooming. They have a lot of buds yet. You can see on this flower. So when they start blooming, they look spectacular. They're kind of orchid-like, but they are small. And they do have a fragrance. I can smell them today. There's Miss Mimi looking at the chrysanthemums. The Mexican heather looks like it's doing really well. Of course, I'm watering it because we're in a drought. First frost is going to kill that all back. The second flush of blue flowers has really come out of that. I'll think of the name of plumbago. Think of the name of it in a minute. My colocasia is looking the worse for wear. But it is fall already, so it's not going to live forever. Frost is going to knock it back. Close the gate so Miss Mimi doesn't come around the front. I watered all this morning. This is what I was telling you about the pansies that I planted. I had some leftover, so I put them in this pot that I put the fern that I'm trying, the palm that I'm trying to salvage. It may not make it. But you can see what I was saying is the flowers all seem to face one side where the sun is. This is the west side of my house. So in the afternoon, the sun comes from the neighbor's property over the top of their house, or her house. This is my third orange tree, Satsuma. This one had some fruit on it, but unfortunately this western exposure caused the tree, I guess we had some winds earlier in the spring, and it knocked the tree back and bent it over, so I cut it back severely and unfortunately lost whatever fruit was on the top. Eventually, if I keep cutting it back, those trunks will get stronger and will be able to withstand the winds. Because every now and then we get winds that blow this area quite severely. And here's what I really wanted to show you today. My sasanqua is blooming. It's got beautiful flowers. They're huge and double. It's the beginning of my camellias. I don't remember the name of this, but my advice to anyone buying sasanquas or camellias is buy them when they're blooming. Don't trust the package, because sometimes they don't bloom like they're advertised to bloom. So it's best, if you want to know what you're getting, wait until they bloom and then buy them. That's where I put one of the chrysanthemums. These two I planted in the ground. And I did buy one pumpkin just to celebrate the fall. And that's where it is. I don't plan on cutting it up for Halloween, because this way I can celebrate Halloween through Thanksgiving. So there you can see the first of the sasanquas blooming. Camellias aren't doing much yet on the other side. This garden is about to come into its own, front and backyard. When I originally thought this garden out, it was a fall-winter garden, because those were the seasons that I was planning on spending here. I didn't realize I would spend all year here at some point. And so it really comes into its own in the fall and the winter. You start with the fruit on the satsuma tree, and you're going to have the gorgeous orange color of that. And then the camellias will be in bloom. So we've got a lot of buds on these camellias. Here's where I wound up putting the flax lilies that I used to have in that spot where the cyclamen now are. I had 4 of them all summer long, and they seemed to like that northern exposure. So I went ahead and put them in a southern exposure. So I added 4 more to my collection. That's kind of usually what I do. I'd like to change out the plants that are in that window box in the backyard. And through the years, I figured out what works and what doesn't work in a northern exposure. And I found out flax lilies do. And so I'll keep them for the summer and then pot them out in the garden for the winter while I put cyclamens there. And that's really about it. Nothing much else to show today. So the camellias are starting to bloom. Yay! It's just a matter of keeping everything alive until the rains come. We're due a little bit of rain this week. I guess I'll end with a view of the snapdragons. I haven't cut them back yet, although I probably will this week. I said I wanted to enjoy the blossoms for a while longer before I cut them back and let them get a little healthier plant. So there you have it for today. Have a good day.